Scott, before we press ahead with a few other types of personal questions about what lies ahead for you all, I'm intrigued always by Soyuz landings. I've been to the landing site many times myself. You've seen the landings on TV. Obviously, you've trained now for them. It's not wheel stop, Houston. It's thump and bang, and they call it the E-ticket. Any U.S. astronaut who has rode home on a Soyuz calls it the E-ticket, basically. What do you think that's going to be like for you?
Well, I think it's an E-ticket if you consider like crashing, you know, an E-ticket ride. I mean, you know, my understanding is it's, you know, it's kind of a violent re-entry and impact with the Earth that has really gotten some people's attention. I'm glad I've talked to a lot of people about it, so hopefully it won't be as big of a surprise, but, you know, it can be, you know, higher G-forces, you know, the Soyuz spins up underneath the parachute. There's a equalization of pressure that, you know, causes the inside of the vehicle, depending on the atmospheric conditions, to fill up with condensation. Can seem rather smoky to people, and then you know, when you hit the ground, it's hard, and then the vehicle, as you've seen, can roll and be in a weird orientation, and all that, you know, combined with the fact that your body's somewhat deconditioned and your vestibular system is affected, can make it for you know, quite a violent, surprising event.
Was it a dream of yours, both of you guys, perhaps far-fetched, to fly together on a shuttle mission or fly together in some way, shape, or form at some point in your careers?
We've talked about it. You know, we've been here for 14 years now and thought that that would be a, you know, pretty neat thing to get to do. Didn't think it would ever really happen. When Scott's been assigned to this expedition flight for a pretty long period of time. I got assigned about a year ago to STS-134 with a launch date, which is actually the day today that we're doing this interview.
July.
Yeah, in July, so July 29th was the planned launch date of 134. So I would have launched and landed before he ever got to space station. But when we were assigned, and it, you know, the way the shuttle program goes, you do realize that there's certainly opportunities out there for flights to get delayed. So we thought it was actually pretty likely that we may fly together. So it's something we thought about, didn't really think would ever happen.
But, you know, earlier on in our career, both being pilots and shuttle commanders, there's only one pilot and only one, you know, commander on the space shuttle. It was, you know, it was very unlikely that we would have been on the same shuttle mission together.
So when STS-134, just by circumstance, slipped to February of 2011, you looked at the calendar, it was pretty obvious that you had a shot at being together, but not just that, but two commanders, twin brothers at the same time. What a moment that must have been.
Yeah, but you know, these things just don't happen all at once, so you kind of see them coming, and there's a little bit of build up to it. And then you know before the launch date changes that it's actually going to change. So there isn't like this, you know, one point where you say, oh, this is all going to work out. It's kind of a gradual thing. But
it's quite possible his launch could slip a month and you won't even be showing this interview on television.
Yeah.
Let's assume that the stars align and you are in space together at the same time next February. What thoughts do you think are going to be going through your head as the hatches open for the first time and you guys greet each other?
These missions are incredibly complicated, where, you know, we're going to have 12 people in space. All of us have to work together. Scott and I have to work together to make sure this thing gets executed correctly with nobody getting hurt and everything getting accomplished. So it's really going to be more about the mission than, hey, we're in space together.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, there'll probably be, you know, 5 to 10 minutes of, you know, just kind of greeting and, you know, reacquainting, but, you know, after the safety brief, there's a lot to do. I will have been there almost 5 months when these guys show up, so, you know, I'll be rather comfortable. But having been in the, you know, in Mark's shoes before, I will understand the sense of urgency that you feel to kind of get moving along on the timeline. So there's not going to be a whole lot of time for, you know, joking around.
I read someplace, I find it hard to believe that you guys have never shaken hands.
I don't think so. You know, when you're a little kid, right, you don't
Yeah.
shake hands. You know, little kids don't shake hands, right? When you're like 3 or 4, or in our case, when we were 15, or, you know, it was just something we've never really done. So it's actually weird sometimes you're standing around a group and all these guys will shake hands. I don't think we actually do
And
that.
until very recently, I kind of noticed that. Like, I'll go up to, you know, we have mutual friends and see him and, you know, shake their hands, and he's standing there with one of them, and I won't.
Yeah, it's just something we've never done.
Okay, so the hatch is open after docking. What are you going to do? Say, hi, nice to see you, and just go about your business? Clearly, you have to shake hands or hug each other or something.
Or
No, we
maybe-
don't. We just do whatever we want to do. See, he's the commander of the space station, I'm the commander of the space shuttle. So we will figure it out.
I'll go like this. I'll go do one of these.
Mark, as you mentioned, when you reach the station as commander of Endeavour, and Scott alluded to it, Scott will be within weeks of coming home if the current dates hold. Is your time together during the week or so of docked operations, how joyous will that be for you, having realized the dream that you talked about a little earlier?
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun, but like I said earlier, I mean, these missions are really complicated. Well, there's a lot of work to be done, so you tend to be focused on that. I mean, we'll have a little bit of, you know, free time, I guess you would call it, in space to, you know, talk about how unique this opportunity is, and I'm sure we'll discuss that. The thing I got to figure out is how I'm going to land the space shuttle in Florida and then convince my boss to send me over to Baikonur for when he lands.
You know, it wasn't like a dream of ours to fly in space. It's not like something we've, you know, dreamed about since being little kids, or, you know, thought would ever happen. It's something that I think we both considered would be, you know, really neat if it happened. But, you know, just having the privilege of flying in space, you know, without flying together is just an incredible opportunity. And, you know, I always thought it'd be great if it happened, but if it didn't, you know, I have no control over that.
And regardless of the timing of you two being in orbit together, you will be flying in space as the shuttle program is drawing to a close. Can you reflect for a moment, each of you, on what significance that holds for both of you, and what your thoughts are going to be about what this program has meant over the course of all the decades that it has been in existence?
So when the space shuttle was designed, it was designed to build a space station. I mean, early on, I mean, the plan was you're going to build this space truck that could bring all this stuff up onto orbit, also to be able to service satellites in space. But it was really designed to build a space station, and we didn't get to do that until, you know, rather recently, 10 years ago, when we started construction of ISS. So when we attach the alpha magnetic spectrometer, AMS, on the outside of the space station truss, I mean, that's going to be assembly complete of ISS. So I think the space shuttle will have, you know, have completed and will have done what it was built to do. It's going to be sad not to have the shuttle around anymore to fly. It's an incredible vehicle. Nobody has ever built anything as, I think, complex, but as capable as well. But, you know, it's necessary, I think, to stop flying the space shuttle so we can move on and build another spacecraft and get out of low Earth orbit and explore our solar system. So in some regard, it's going to be sad, but I think it's a necessary step so we can move forward.
You know, certainly we need to reflect back on the shuttle program and its successes, and like, you know, I agree with Mark 100%. It's an amazing vehicle. It's been an amazing, you know, program, but it can't leave low Earth orbit by design. I mean, it wasn't designed to do that, and if we want to do something else, our country does not have the resources to do both. I mean, we cannot fly the shuttle program, support the space station program, and build something else. And, you know, I think we need to build something else and move on. And, you know, the way we've chosen to do that is by retiring the shuttle.